What we call the Disney Renaissance is an important time in animation history as well as Disney history, and I say that the greatest movie of the Disney Renaissance is Shrek.
2001
is the year I officially declare the end of the 1990s. Don't ask why, just figure it out. And when Shrek hit the theaters in April, there was never a more poignant, though perhaps potty-mouthed pellicula than DreamWorks Animation's greatest film. Their best film since everybody's favorite Bible adaptation. With former Disney chairman and animation lovers' preferred whipping boy Jeffrey Katzenberg, DreamWorks would go on to make a movie that would serve as a mighty middle finger to the Mickey Mouse empire, while surprisingly also capturing the best version of Disney that Disney could never be. A lot of the elements are the same. Fantasy world? Check. The book opening sequence? Check. Princesses? You betcha. Friendship? We got it. An epic quest? Ooh, we got it. Dragons?
Dragons.
Hey, we got it! A deeply serious and sincere commentary about how the rejection of outliers and abnormal people will always lead to a cold, corrupt, and unloving world? Shrek has been unpacked, analyzed, and memed to utter thematic depletion. Or so some of you may think. See, I believe, on the contrary, that there is more to Shrek that we keep missing as young memers and dreamers. For if images like this and opinions like this...
The forced misunderstanding plot is a little contrived and really my only major issue with the film. But no, what do we get? We get the princess and Shrek misunderstanding and
they go and mope and dope and oh, this is just as bad as the liar revealed bit. Why are you supposed to feel bad here? You know exactly what's gonna happen. They're gonna realize they were idiots and get back together.
Are considered mainstream, then allow me to get a little controversial. Shrek 2 is not as good as Shrek 1. There, I said it, I've got points like you, I promise. I'm just being very honest. It's not like it's a movie that I've hated, but through my objective eyes, I can see through this disguise that Shrek 2's just a little overrated. Look, Sparky, here's the deal. When being viewed as a fun family comedy, then yes, Shrek 2 takes the cake.
Everybody loves cake.
It's funnier, it's more adventurous, has slightly fewer utterances of the word ass, and it's so full of character that it would be a severely petty crime to overlook it. Despite all of 2's great qualities, I still think 1 is considerably better. This is because if you view Shrek not merely as a comedy where you're calculating how often you laugh,
I don't find it funny.
But instead view it as a work of art of its time, or as its own fairy tale with an important moral, a story with a particularly strong message, or, you know, as a movie, then Shrek 1 is just better. Before Shrek, there were few worthy challengers who could match Disney in the animation department. Don Bluth came the closest, making 2. Yes, that's right. 2 films that made serious bank and the critics happy during Disney's worst decade. Okay, credit where it's due, but this is not enough, especially with how their 5th, final, and biggest success was a topical, trendy retread of what Disney was already doing for 8 years at that point.
A princess!
Don Bluth was not a challenger anymore, he was a succumber, a responder, and after Titan AE made less than half of what it was worth, Disney remained strong as the only true powerhouse in animation. And then Shrek comes along to demolish the box office and push Pixar away from the Oscar win the following year. That doesn't just happen. And I want to tell you how I think that happened. I see only 4 reasons. And the first reason is Shrek. As in the protagonist, the seemingly content hermit who enjoys his routine, his meals, and his reputation even, as a misunderstood monster.
Right.
When you understand at least a hint of the background drama, the meta-narrative as a counter-Disney product, so much of this character is immediately hilarious, relatable, and most importantly, refreshing. An ugly protagonist, as opposed to a pretty daydreamer or a... Oh no, that's pretty much it. And don't you dare comment, what about Quasimodo? He's not ugly, he's adorable.
I love him!
Having an ugly character is what's so beautiful about Shrek. Shrek is not out there hopelessly wishing for warmer nights or brighter days. Every indication reveals that this great green hermit is perfectly fine with his isolated life, full of mud baths, plenty to eat, and resourceful accommodations. He's happily ever ogre. He's a content freak who's chosen the quiet life and prefers the privacy, given that normal men want to pitchfork and torch his hide for honestly no good reason, since these dudes had to go well out of their way to find the ogre just to claim some bounty. And though he's annoyed by the intruders, Shrek does enjoy pulling a little sneaky on them. This brief introduction tells us all we need. Shrek is a freak, but one who is content with who he is. Throughout the whole story, he never apologizes for his ogreness. He can hardly be moved, nor lacks for confidence.
Ugh, it's hideous.
It's just a donkey.
It's these very things that make him the right choice for Farquaad's champion. The people genuinely love his ogre performance and freakish nature. That is the heroic competence that most other heroes need training for. Until 2001, this pre-installed self-assurance in a main character is something we just haven't seen in an animated hero's journey for kids. Before Shrek, the hero's flaw was usually the opposite condition, a lack of confidence or a lack of competence. Shrek already has both. So what's the flaw here? What's the thing he must overcome? Well, you probably guessed it, given some of the words I've used. Shrek has no openness for other people. Perfectly understandable. While he defends his character enough to show that there's more to him than a one-dimensional beast, Shrek is not willing to reframe his onion analogy in a positive light.
You know, not everybody likes onions. Cake! Everybody loves cakes. Cakes have layers.
I don't care what everyone likes.
Likely because nearly every person he's ever met is the kind that would seek his downfall, or more simply, can't see past the outward ogre appearance.
They judge me before they even know me. That's why I'm better off alone.
This is our hero's real struggle. Deeply seated social trauma. Shrek's identity is a spite-dentity. That, my friends, is merely the first point, and this quality of our main character is doing so much more than the entirety of the pre-Shrek Disney protagonists combined. Shrek's problem is a personal one, so it's going to take another person to begin solving it. This leads us to the second reason Shrek is exceptional: Donkey. Or, as I like to call him, the most important thing in the movie. I find it's quite fitting the way that these two characters first meet. As Donkey runs for his freedom away from the fun police, he bumps into Shrek, who was establishing yet another boundary. Like Luigi, the ogre wins by doing absolutely nothing, which compels the chasee to express praise and thanks. Possibly the very things which Shrek has never before received.
Are you talking to me?
Yes, I was talking to you.
Has it ever occurred to you that Shrek has never been complimented before? As we walk along back to the swamp, we know perfectly what Donkey is about. He's annoying. Sorry, extroverted. The way in which he's written, the precise flow of his words, and the positive attitude he's expressing with them communicates to you and I that Donkey is a freak who, like Shrek, is greatly content with who he is. Though in the way in which that contentment is expressed reveals one key difference between him and Shrek. Donkey's openness for other people. He has it. Though he doesn't have any friends, he clearly wants them, and it's this trait which gives us a movie at all. Without Donkey, Shrek wouldn't know the feeling of being tolerated, appreciated, and liked. Without Donkey, Shrek wouldn't know the way to Farquaad's castle, and his quest wouldn't have taken off, because the one person that wants to be Shrek's friend is the only one who can help him. It's only this kind of desperate amicability that could tame a ferocious dragon. That's how powerful he is. The power of friendship. We're not going there. There will be a time.
Now's not the time.
Without the fast-talking comic relief Donkey, we wouldn't have had the most emotionally necessary and slow-paced conversation in the film. After asking about their swamp, Donkey is told it's only Shrek's property.
Donkey, there's no we, there's no our. There's just me and my swamp.
Given that Donkey has nobody else and likes Shrek as a friend, this hurts him, but he makes the compelling choice to let it slide and instead wonder about the source of Shrek's callousness. Without this pestering, this nosy annoyance that drives Shrek up his own imaginary wall, we would not have this necessary outburst.
Who you trying to keep out? Just tell me that, Shrek. Who?
Everyone, okay?
Now we getting somewhere.
Necessary because Donkey was finally able to get Shrek to become vulnerable. And if you're not vulnerable, well, you're just not going to change. After seconds of silence, Donkey sits next to Shrek.
When we met, I didn't think you was just a big, stupid, ugly ogre.
Yeah, I know.
This final moment culminates in one of the most genuine, heartfelt scenes ever animated. And this doesn't even cover the rest of Donkey's necessity in the story, for it was Donkey who tried to help Fiona with her self-image. It was Donkey who helped Shrek gain what he truly wanted, and without him, the ogre would not have pursued, confessed to, and married Fiona. So, I conclude this segment with how I started. Donkey, the most important thing in the movie. Without our favorite pal, Shrek wouldn't have defeated the third reason why this movie is exceptional. Farquaad. I think now you're detecting a pattern. Farquaad couldn't be a more perfect villain for Shrek. His introduction as the force that captures and dumps all the fairy tale creatures is almost all we need to know about him. A light blue F that seeks perfection through population oversight and management. Still, the idea of Farquaad hauling off whimsical little creatures to Shrek knows where properly informs us of his goal. To remove the magic. And why? Because he doesn't like it.
You're a monster.
I'm not the monster here, you are. You and the rest of that fairy tale trash poisoning my perfect world.
Farquaad doesn't just remove the magic, he cuts it off from the source. He goes so far as to, let's say, decommission Mama Bear and give her tenure as a rug.
Is that better?
It's worse. It's so much worse.
Which raises a few questions about The Last Wish as well as the karaoke dance party, but let's not. This is perfectly fitting. Not only does he banish the magic away, he specifically targets the mother of something magical, ensuring that further fairy tale bears cannot reproduce. He doesn't just cut off the head, he cuts off the womb. That, combined with his blatant disregard for his own knights' lives, and thus by extension, his whole fief, you guessed it, Farquaad has no openness for other people. Little glimpses of appreciation for others are solely based on what they can give him. He delights when he sees this knight, but only because he did his job right. He may desire a princess for a wedding, but only to become the king. A short king, if you will. But that's the other thing, his shortness. This design choice and how the rest of the cast reacts to it is one of those so-called flaws of Shrek that some memers and schemers who like and share said memes about how it's ridiculous for Shrek to make fun of someone's appearance while preaching that that's a bad thing. I reject these answers. I reject it on the basis that 1, that is barely what the movie is about, 2, it's not a contradiction to the moral of the story, because 3, Farquaad freaking deserves it. What Farquaad is not shown to admit to himself is the fact that he's so short, that he, himself, is in fact a freak. Unlike Shrek and Donkey, Farquaad is not content with who he is. He forces the table to come down to his level. He's the lord of this land, which means he already has supreme power, but somehow he wants more?
And Yulok will finally have the perfect king.
He stands above his subjects like a god, too high and too far, far away for them to see him for what he is. And when they can see him, he's conducting their emotions. Farquaad is a man who extends his arms and legs while riding a horse with fake limbs because he's too small to handle what he has, but he will never admit it. He even elongates the F. Farquaad is fair game. Not because he's a freak on the wrong side of the story, but because he's a freak who won't accept the fact that he is one. It's the hypocrisy. The 2 freaks that Farquaad would have readily sent away to Swamp Camp were the only ones who could have saved Fiona, because anybody else would have done it the right way. You know, the wrong way.
You're meant to charge in, sword drawn, banner flying. That's what all the other knights did.
Yeah, right before they burst into flame.
Remember, Farquaad doesn't reward Shrek. He only returns what he took in the first place, and he even threatens to take it back.
Take it and go, before I change my mind.
I'm not saying just because, he's particularly mean, he's especially evil, that it's okay to mock him for something he can't control. All I'm saying is, if your edict is to haul away all the magical outliers of the kingdom for being weird and imperfect, but you won't include yourself among them and instead pretend that you're normal? You've earned this.
You're a short motherfucker and nobody likes you. Short!
More?
Please. Everybody says, short that guy is. And that stops you from forming meaningful relationships.
Say what you want about Farquaad representing a specific Disney dude from the time, even without that. Farquaad's role within the story is just like what his character wants. Perfection. The selfish and short hypocrite with sovereignty is a fitting antagonist for the secluded hermit with a solid self-image. Fitting, for they fight over the fourth reason for this film's phenomenal feats. 4. Fiona.
Fiona!
Once again, I'm pretty sure you're smart, so you've likely picked up the pattern in what's left to discuss. Whereas Shrek is chill with himself but not with others, Donkey is content with who he is and loves other people, and then Farquaad being both in denial of his true self and denial of others, where does Fiona lie in all this?
Fiona is the key to all of this.
Her personal introduction outside of the backstory happens when Shrek crashes into her room, and the audience sees her attempt to live up to the proper role of princess. Instead of making her presence known, Fiona waits for the supposed knight to sweep her off her feet and do all the knightly things correctly. But that doesn't happen. Wake up! Shrek is not at all the man she was waiting for, but that's what you get for being 4 days late. It sucks to suck! Fiona is perhaps the most archetypical princess we've ever seen. She matches the idea of what a princess should be so well that, as a kid, I thought she really was an old fairy tale character. In one sense, no, because Fiona comes from the original Shrek story. But in another way, yes, she is an old fairy tale princess. Because of how typical she is. She's completely generic. To overcome this fact, and to have a unique story at all, Fiona is rescued by a dude who is anything but typical. And that's honestly for the better. Shrek's abnormal nature is why he succeeds. Both the character and the movie.
What kind of knight are you?
One of a kind.
Fiona is confronted with the fact, like every young woman has to find out eventually, that men suck. Because we all do, and are going to disappoint your perfect vision of things. However, she does compromise after the victory. After all, Shrek is still the rescuer.
A little unorthodox, I'll admit, but thy deed is great, and thine heart is pure. You may remove your helmet, good Sir Knight.
But as soon as he removes the helmet, the cope finally wears off.
Oh, you were expecting Prince Charming?
Well, yes, actually. Oh, no. This is all wrong. You're not supposed to be an ogre.
She begins to see the real reason she was rescued at all. Some other powerful dude is imposing his will upon her. And now this is how I like describing the female hero's journey.
Putting up with it.
I will explain more later, but for now, Fiona's goal in this latter half of the adventure is getting acclimatized. She listens to Shrek spill his heart out and decides to make up for her ornery attitude by making breakfast for the two oddballs that saved her. It's only appropriate that she'd be the one to prepare the meal that stirs up this conversation.
Better out than in, I always say.
Well, it's no way to behave in front of a princess.
Thanks.
She's as nasty as you are.
You know, you're not exactly what I expected.
Well, maybe you shouldn't judge people before you get to know them.
I take it back. Fiona's not generic at all. She's capable of making an early 2000s Matrix reference. She can stand up for herself. That's what it is. Fiona later grows so close with Shrek that they both decide to delay the finished quest with Farquaad just to spend more time together. It is here where we see that Fiona sees Shrek for who he is, beyond the ogre veneer. So we can say with confidence that Fiona definitely holds the openness for other people. But there's a small problem, one you can probably see coming.
Princess?
This is how Fiona describes her knightly condition.
I'm ugly, okay? Every night I become this horrible, ugly beast. The donkey. I'm the princess. And this is not how a princess is meant to look. Princess and ugly don't go together. That's why I can't stay here with Shrek.
Fiona can see past Shrek's appearance, but she can't look past her own.
No, you can't breathe a word. No one must ever know.
What's the point of being able to talk if you gotta keep secrets?
Promise you won't tell.
Fiona is not content with who she is. And this is the reason I will defend till my dying breath the following sequence, what people might call the moping and doping montage.
Mope and dope.
They say it feels cliched or contrived because it was a misunderstanding that was forced to be there. If you were to hyper-focus on the minute details, then sure, technically, they aren't together at this point because of a bad timing arrival. But ultimately, the real reason is because Fiona refuses to love herself. If she didn't insist on reinforcing this arbitrary value standard, for the 4th time, mind you, Shrek wouldn't have walked in on a conversation about fearing rejection. Shrek has accepted who he is, and Fiona values who Shrek is. But if you don't value yourself, you don't deserve a romantic relationship. That's why these two couldn't be together. One of them could not accept herself. Though perhaps you're ready to type a response saying,
wait, doesn't she work up the courage to tell Shrek the truth, but only runs out of time? Isn't that enough proof to say that she's accepted herself now?
I'm sorry, but no. For one, the damage has already been done. 2, the interrupting Farquaad shows up on cue. And 3, she still has doubts about her beauty, even at the last line of the movie.
But I don't understand. I'm supposed to be beautiful.
So I'm not going to entertain another complaint about this carefully edited montage. It's essential for the story. How would you make it work better? Because I can't conceive of a better way for the heroes to reestablish their values. No other way to see that Shrek got exactly what he wanted at the beginning, but now wallows in misery because he's no longer the same ogre. Like I mentioned before, and it might take me a whole another video to unpack this one idea, but I described the female hero's journey as putting up with it, whereas the male, or perhaps more standard hero's journey is achieve something.
Do something! Do something! Do something!
Whether it's to find the treasure, go out and vanquish the mighty beast that threatens the town, to stay behind and defend what's precious, or even simpler, to toil in the dirt so your people can be fed. Generally, the life journey for able men is to grow up and do something. For example, Shrek. He had to mature. He had to see that something needed to be done about his crowded swamp situation. So he goes out, saves the princess, and saves her again. True, he needed the motivational help, but he is the one taking action. However, the male's role, his arc, it's not enough to complete this story. You need the female side of the fairy tale. What is that exactly? Accepting who and what you are. For example, everybody celebrates Sarah Connor. Sarah Connor is not a strong female character just because she hits a button to make a robot pancake. She's a strong female character because her arc was strictly, the only thing she had to do was to accept her role as mother.
I know.
Mother of the one who would save humanity. Hey, that sounds familiar.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
Sarah's goal wasn't to surpass the Terminator, it was to survive the Terminator. To continue living. To continue being. Being the person she's supposed to be.
Reese! On your feet, soldier! On your feet!
Likewise, Fiona is somebody whose arc is being who she's supposed to be. She's supposed to be the princess that gets saved by true love. She's a strong character not because she can single-handedly take on the entirety of Monsieur Hood's gang. It's cool, but just because you know Kung Fu doesn't mean you know how to love yourself. That's more important. Now, of course, don't get me wrong, anybody could easily reply with this argument. And you'd be right. In fact, I'm utterly defeated. There's no way I can refute this argument because there will always be exceptions with pretty much everything, but certainly with these two ideas. And to be clear, if I wasn't before, I don't want to put anybody in a box, otherwise I'd be missing the entire point of Shrek. That there is more to a person than what makes them different to you. And it is wrong to reduce them to the specific things that you specifically don't like about them. And it's even worse if you're the one doing the reducing to yourself. Fiona only says yes to Farquaad because of her desperation to fix her own problem, assuming that a marriage is going to solve that. But it wasn't first kiss that would save her. It's true love's first kiss.
Maybe you kissed her wrong?
No. The kiss didn't work. Because Fiona doesn't love me.
People need people, of course, but people also need people that truly love them. Otherwise, you compromise yourself. Unless you say, I don't know, call yourself an introvert, in which case, no, you still need people. People that challenge you. People that want to guide you. People that want to love you. There is not a single person in the world that doesn't need that. But hey, I get it. Maybe you really don't feel comfortable with new people. Maybe you doubt your own ability to get along with others because they don't end up liking you. Or maybe you'd love to have true friendship in theory, but are afraid to show them a side of you that'll turn them off for good. May I invite you again to consider the example of Shrek? Does Shrek become accepted by general society? Has he changed his mind about the average human? Not really. He only celebrates his marriage with his immediate friends and other fairy tale folks. And by the second movie?
Corrected.
He's still not fully accepted. And the feeling is mutual, but you know what? That's the point of Shrek, because your value is not fucking determined by how well the common man gets along with you. Nobody gets to tell you that you're of less worth just because you might lack in certain social environments. You know how many times I've heard the phrase, "You must be fun at parties"? I know the reason I've heard this so often is because I'm typically the one leaving comments on memes or posts about movies, and I'm extrapolating the damning implications of what the other person says. They don't like that. Generally, I get this response because I take all my entertainment this seriously. So believe me, I've heard it so many individual times in this exact phrasing that I've done the self-reflection and I've realized that y'all lack creativity, man. I want some new insults, please. I am getting bored. I am bored of the insinuation that parties are a metric for someone's worth, as if such parties are worth going to in the first place, as if I didn't just leave within the first 10 minutes of being there because seeing people I don't really like conspiring to become even more unlikable is one of the stupidest ideas ever. May I remind you that you can be content without the common crowd. You can find joy with your own group of outliers. And you definitely don't need the approval of whatever's normal at any given tiny point in time to feel valid in your own skin. We all need some outside validation, but the only valid validation comes from another person's love, not the other person's comfort.
Oh, yeah? Well, if I treated you so bad, how come you came back?
Because that's what friends do. They forgive each other.
Shrek is an important film because of how well it illustrates this idea. It's one thing to be typical enough to say something as old as everyone's special and valued, but it's another thing to be bold enough to actually have a truly outwardly ugly person tell that story. And Disney was never going to do that. Shrek was the only one at the time who could. And DreamWorks stuck the landing perfectly when they chose to keep Fiona in ogre form, confirming their message that you don't need to be pretty, you don't need to be likable to be happy.
I'm supposed to be beautiful.
But you are beautiful.
Shrek is a story about somebody who comes along, saves a princess, and loves her for everything that she is, warts and all.
Warts and all.
Shrek 2 simply repeats this message, but that's not a bad thing. In fact, we all need that repetition, because we are all so prone to experiencing breakthroughs in our life and then forget that they happened to us. Still, I believe the accomplishment that is Shrek is far stronger than the fun that is its sequel, or any other sequels for that matter. The achievement that is Shrek sets it apart from any other Disney thing that came before.
So move. Hey. That's a good move.
It may be gross, it may seem rude, inappropriate even, but without that necessary edge, the moral of the story is lost. If you can't see past the edge, then you're missing one of the greatest love stories ever told. Shrek is the unexpected, offensive, but necessary hero that we all needed. That's why he works so well. That's why he won the Oscar, and that's why he captured our hearts the first time around. Because it turns out, Shrek is love, and Shrek is life.
Oh, there it is.
End the video.